How are we doing, everybody? Welcome to the Ravori Sports Conversation. Like and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. So we appreciate all of you as well. Up to almost 400 on Facebook as well. Over 150, getting their 150 mark on YouTube as well. All of our platforms are really moving. I'm actually somewhat surprised this time of year. That more people where there's no NFL going on, nothing really but MLB that we're moving more now than we were. So I'm really grateful for that as well. Genesis Notary Services in Facebook, on Facebook. So definitely check us out if you're in Winchester, Virginia. If you know, you know. I am taking 3 days off here for the notary business here this week. So I will be back on Thursday. So I will not be taking any notary appointments from Monday to Wednesday as well. So just keep in mind that. Harris Legal Shield, definitely go to Harris Legal Shield and definitely check us out there as well. So again, same thing, taking 3 days off, which I've almost never done. 3 days off. I'm not going to be working there with the notary service there for a couple of days, taking a couple of days off. So I will be not doing that. But definitely leave me a message if you need any help. We're happy to help you on Thursday after that as well. And now, here we go. We got Sam Nelson, the leader of 609 Sports Talk in the New Jersey area as well. And I was just telling Sam off camera, man, hearing how he does it, he sounds like a New York guy. I can hear the I know you said you didn't like, but I can hear the Mad Dog Russo in you. I can hear the Craig Carlton, et cetera, there as well. So thank you, sir, for joining us here as well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
All right, man. So let's go ahead and get it going here. What's going on in the NBA? I know you follow the NBA content. I was watching you the other night there as well. How Philly fans got to be ecstatic, right? That you got Jaylen Brown away from the Celtics. I mean, you guys are on the good side of this trade as well. How are the Philly fans reacting to? I think this puts the Sixers as the number one team in the East. I would think. Like after this trade, I mean, you didn't give up Maxey, you didn't give up Edgecombe, you didn't give up Embiid. You got Jaylen Brown, who's a top 10 player in the league.
Well, the funny thing is the original trade package, when these two teams got together the week prior to the trade, the original asking price for the Celtics were Paul George, VJ Edgecombe, and 5 first-round picks. That's what they asked for. And Mike Gansey came up and said, look, I'm not giving you probably my best young player. Not that Maxey's not a good player, but Maxey's been in the league now for like 5-6 years. But VJ's just getting into it, just coming into his second year this year. So I understand that. This is probably the best us Sixer fans have felt probably in, oh, good Lord, it's been a minute. Probably since the process started back 10 plus years ago. I'm going to be completely honest with you. When this trade went down, I thought I was being punked. I got a message on Facebook saying that the Sixers agreed to a blockbuster deal for Jaylen Brown, and I said, stop messing with me. I'm not in the mood for a juke. I then go on my Twitter, I check my Shams report, and I'm like, we got who? In exchange for who? The fact that they managed to get this deal done for just Paul George and his contract. Now, again, they got to take Jaylen Brown's contract, which is a year longer than Paul George's. But here's the thing. I'm trading a 36-year-old who, with no disrespect to Paul George, I love Paul George. One of the best players I've ever watched as a two-way player.
Hall of Fame career, Paul George. Hall of Fame career. I mean, you could argue maybe not, but certainly in the Hall of Fame discussion what he's done.
Without a doubt. And again, it's not that he's not a good player. It's just he's not the player he was 4 or 5 years ago. He's 36. So you not only get 7 years younger with Jaylen Brown, who is 29 in the prime of his career, coming off one of the best seasons of his career. I know the Celtics front office and people in Boston didn't like his remarks of saying this season was his favorite. And they, of course, try to say that analytically, Derek White had a better season than him, which is completely outlandish. That's not true whatsoever. But to get a guy of Jaylen Brown's magnitude, an NBA champion, an NBA Finals MVP, he's played at the biggest stage of his career in the NBA Finals. Like you said, top 10 player in the league. To add that to a team that has got two young guards and Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. Maxey, we know what he does on the offensive side of the floor. VJ Edgecombe, I think, is going to end up being one of the best two-way players in the league with the way he can. He is 6'5". He's a little shorter for like a very seven, 6'9", but ultimately, offensively, to be honest, a lot better than I expected in his rookie season. I mean, came out opening night in Boston and dropped 35. When I watched that, I was like, oh, we may have something here. I got something to be excited for.
Very impressive. Very impressive young player, especially not easy to play a similar position as Maxey and develop the way he did. I really like the way they played together as well. That's what you saw there with those. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, you're good. And especially what you're saying about VJ is true, because the other thing that's very impressive is the fact that, let's be honest, before this trade, Joel Embiid handles a lot of the offense. Tyrese Maxey's your main ball handler. He's your point guard. The fact that VJ was able to take on a role and play so well off the ball in his rookie season is something that was a breath of fresh air, because that's the one thing this team needs. Guys need to be able to play off ball. And honestly, I also think the addition of Jaylen Brown is going to help Tyrese Maxey play better off the ball, because in my opinion, I think Tyrese Maxey is a better three-point shooter when he's playing off the ball instead of trying to do his isolation dribbling and trying to create himself a three-point shot. That's when late in the season, that's when his three-point percentage starts to dip, is when he's trying to iso ball his way into getting separation. But when you see early in the year when Embiid's got the ball and he's in that little mid-range area or he's down on the block and they leave Maxey open, he is a lot more consistent shooter off the ball. So I think adding Jaylen Brown to this mix, another guy who does need the ball in his hand, and that's the one thing when we get to the season we'll have to talk about. A lot of guys that need the ball in their hands, and I'm okay with that, because the thing is, the other thing, the biggest takeaway with this trade is Joel Embiid. We know how great of a player he is. I don't think anybody can deny, when healthy, that's a top 3 player in basketball. The problem is what I just stated, when he's healthy, and that's almost never. And it's not a knock on him. I love the guy, but now I think we've reached a point with Joel with I will have to question every year now, will he even play 50 games a year? And I hate to say that, but
I remember when they signed him. Go ahead. I remember when they signed him, the Joel Embiid contract. I remember saying this was the worst contract ever. And he proved me wrong. He's been really good. And yeah, you're right. He's injured like all the time as well every year. And so now you don't even need to worry about what Joel does, right? That's just icing on the cake, whatever you're getting from Joel at this point, right? With what you've assembled.
Oh, yeah, because again, let's be generous. Let's say he plays 50 games next year. So that's 32 games he's going to miss. The problem is they've never had a roster constructed around the time he misses. So basically, no offense to Embiid, when he misses time, a lot of those games are chalked up losses because there's no way to make up for that offensive production. Now, when there are games where he will load manage, like he won't play back-to-backs, he'll probably play, if they have a game every other day, probably the 4th game he'll miss after playing the first 3, whatever. Now you have that offensive production when he's not on the floor with Jaylen Brown. You just added 30 points a game to your lineup compared to Paul George, who was giving you 18 to 20. And look, again, I appreciate Paul George for what his time was in Philly, even though it was short-lived. But, that we don't win that Celtics series without him. He played amazing defensively. He spaced the floor, shot the ball well from 3. But if you go back into the second round against the Knicks, you saw those games. First quarter, he's letting it fly. He's got 12, 14 points a quarter. Old legs get tired quickly. And towards the 4th quarter of those games, you saw Paul George, that age starts to show.
Yeah, you're right about that. What's going on in the NBA? We see some weird trades. First, a couple years ago, the famous Luka trade, even though I'm a Laker fan, I'm on the other side of that. Luka, and then for Anthony Davis, to me, uber weird. You had the James Harden trade, I thought was kind of crazy. You give up what you gave up last year, the clear uber weird. Now you have this one here. What's going on? What were the Celtic? My dad was the biggest Celtic fan when he was alive. I'm sure he's up in heaven right now, just furious. Like they traded Jaylen Brown. What's going on in the league? Is it just money? Some people mentioned, I saw Rick Beaker talk about private equity and share. What's going on with these trades with that? Just doesn't make sense. To me, at least.
It's a good question. I think it's a combination of two things. Number one, the way the NBA salary cap is now. Adam Silver said about 8-9 years ago, he wanted to eliminate the super team. Like we didn't need that the Golden State Warriors signing Kevin Durant happen again. We didn't need that. So now with the way they've put the aprons of hitting those first luxury tax levels, you cannot continue to have basically a bunch of max money players on your team. And if the Celtics, Brad Stevens said, one of the reasons they traded Jaylen Brown is if they would have kept him, he would have been extension eligible again. And guess what? Him and Jason Tatum would have been taking up 70. I'm going to say that again, 70% of their cap space. So I think it's a combination of teams not wanting to have to go through that. Now, Philly's clearly going to go through it. Maxi's on a max deal, Embiid's on a max deal, and now Jaylen Brown. And by the way, for people that will ask, do I think the Sixers should give Jaylen Brown that extension? Abso-freaking-lutely. If he plays like the way he's been playing, why wouldn't I? But I think it's a combination of that. And I think there's just some teams that are realizing that the way their teams have been structured, they're just not good enough. Like the Clippers. Now, the Kawhi Leonard trade we have to wait for because there is that investigation going on. We have to wait for that to be finalized. But the Clippers, they weren't going anywhere. They were kind of just like middle of the pack in the West. And you, as a Laker fan, know the Western Conference is a bloodbath every year. The 8th seed has 52 wins. So it's just a combination of like the way the salary cap is, and some teams just realizing, hey, we're really not as close to this thing as we think we are.
I do get that with the cap. I totally understand that, but also what I mean too is get something, right? You didn't get like you trade to the Sixers. You don't get Maxey. You don't get Edgecombe. That certainly would be a numbers-friendly thing. You don't get, you trade and you get Harden. Like, what do you do? Like, why aren't you getting, draft capital? Like, you're not even getting that with some of these trades. Like, you're just giving guys away practically. I mean, you're getting some vets, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. No, you're good. And here's the thing. That's the other thing that I'll say as well. I think a lot of that still has to do with the salary cap because I guarantee you in these negotiations, teams are saying, listen, all due respect, I know how great put name here is a great player, but if I got to pay him a max contract in 2 years, I'm going to need to have draft picks so I can fill out my roster around that player. So that's a big reason why draft picks aren't always involved now because I'm sure when the Celtics asked for 5, and VJ Edgecombe, Mike Gansey said, well, wait a minute. I am taking 3 years of his money off your books. I'm giving you 2 years back with Paul George, but you're getting out of this a year earlier now instead of 3, which now after the 3 years with Jaylen, I'm going to have to pay him again if he's still playing to this level. I could give him a 2-year extension and max him out again. But guess what? That's going to take up a lot of my salary cap. So guess what? I'm going to need VJ Edgecombe, and I'm going to need my draft picks because when my money's tied up in Joel, Jaylen Brown, and Maxey, I need something to put a roster around these 3, which is why I think another reason why there's not more draft capital being thrown around anymore. And you're seeing, because now you're seeing draft picks, we're seeing draft picks 8 years down the road being traded now.
I hate that. I absolutely hate it. I think part of that, too, I know why the NBA has that, because you can't trade back-to-back years like you can in the NFL. So you have to sparse it out. You can't trade 3 straight picks. You have to trade 1 year and then the following year. And then if it's 4 picks, well, you're all waiting in 2034 or something like that, like trading picks as well. Real quick, LeBron rumors, buy any of that? I'm not sure I buy it, but to the Sixers, some people are saying, if you listen to ESPN, they're saying LeBron and all that to Sixers. Is that possible? Is that something that you think?
LeBron, if the reports when he said he'd be willing to take very little money, like the vet minimum, to certain teams, it's very much a possibility in Philadelphia because, of course, the Sixers now don't have much cap space left. They've used it up. They picked up, again, getting Jaylen Brown. That contract comes over. They picked up Anthony Simons to play off their bench, which is another great move. They signed Dean Wade. Not to get anyone mixed up with the other D Wade, not that one. But, they've spent a little money, and now I think there is a realistic shot of this happening in Philadelphia because Brian Windhorst came on the other day on ESPN and said the Cavs believe that he's close to reaching a deal in another city. And if you look around, the betting favorites are the Sixers or the Miami Heat. I mean, we know Rich Paul, his agent, has that podcast with Max Kellerman, and Bob Myers was just on it. Now, Bob Myers runs the sports department for Harris and Blitzer, who are the Sixers ownership group, and he works very closely with Mike Gansey, helping him, and they both are basically running the Sixers now. So I think there is a very realistic shot of this happening. And I will say this, if it does, the expectations in this city are going to explode.
Oh, yeah. I think it's Golden State for LeBron, and then but I do think Philly's the obvious choice now. If it doesn't work out in those places, which it may not, I do think that's realistic. I'm not sure Golden State, Cleveland can work out the numbers, can work it. I think maybe those are things, but I think Philly is in play, and I don't believe a lot of what Paul says. His job is to get more money, right?
Exactly. His job is to get leverage. That he's literally paid to get leverage.
I don't know why people are upset with him. I mean, he's supposed to do that. He's LeBron's agent. That's his job. Yeah, he's supposed to create that. So I don't know what the thing is. NFL. Let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. I saw your show about the gridiron, Birds of the Gridiron as well. I didn't know how to approach the whole Sirianni and Hurts thing, but you really were kind of defending them a little bit. I think Hurts is really underrated as a quarterback. I don't know why anybody doesn't have him in the top 10 as well, but I'm going to ask the obvious question first. A.J. Brown and Hurts, what happened? I mean, to me, that was crazy. Why was Brown even upset? I mean, what does he think is going to happen on another team that he's not getting in Philly?
Jack, this is going to be a very interesting conversation now. So look, first off, here's the thing. A.J. Brown wants to be the number one focal point in an offense. I understand that. I get that. You're paid to be that. What A.J. Brown doesn't understand that you can only throw the football to one person so many times until teams start realizing it. And every time, we know A.J. Brown loves his cryptic tweets and Instagram posts and whatever. This almost starts every time the Eagles would play and Devontae Smith was having big nights. A.J. felt a certain way. I don't know if there was jealousy. I don't know if that is what caused this whole situation. There are rumors on why him and Jalen's relationship off the field kind of got sour. I'm not going to talk about those because, again, in the world we live in with social media, you don't know what's true. So I'm just going to stick it solely between the lines on the football field with these two. A.J. wanted to be the sole option on offense. And he could not get through the fact that there are other mouths to feed. Dallas Goedert, who last year led the NFL, was tied for the lead in touchdowns by a tight end, with him and Trey McBride each had 11. Saquon, just coming off a 2,000-yard season. Probably the biggest reason they won that freaking Super Bowl, outside of Vic Fangio's defense playing out of their minds in the Super Bowl. But Saquon Barkley was that difference maker. He brought that offense a whole new, and don't get me wrong, under Nick Sirianni, we have had very good seasons running the football. Miles Sanders had the best year of his career in 2022 when we got to the Super Bowl and lost to the Chiefs. Even in 2023, when our offense struggled, DeAndre Swift, who barely was a 1,000-yard rusher in Detroit, was a Pro Bowler that year in Nick Sirianni's run scheme. And then, of course, Saquon comes over. We already knew the talent that he was when he was healthy in New York, but then he comes over here, plays with what was the best O-line in football, with a better offense, and just went absolutely insane. So I think AJ, at least on the field, like I said, off the field, I'm not going to comment on it because I'm not going to act like I know things that I don't. I think a lot of it had to just do with AJ just couldn't fathom with the fact that there's more mouths to feed than just him. And I've always said this as an Eagles fan, and I just want to make sure I don't say this and make it sound the wrong way. A.J. Brown is a physical specimen. He is a freak of nature athlete. He's built like a freaking. He's like a tight end in a wide receiver's body. He's a freak of nature. But I always said A.J. Brown is the most feared player on the Eagles. I still think as a wide receiver, I think Devontae Smith is a more talented wide receiver.
He just wanted to help people. Was it more personal than even? And we don't know. I'm agree with you. We don't want to get sued here because we don't know exactly what happened, like behind the scenes.
A lot more than just football with these two,
right? But was this more personal than business? I don't understand why anybody's mad at Hurts. Hurts has done nothing but win since he's been there. So I kind of don't get the narrative either, like what Hurts either. So go ahead.
Here's what I'll tell you about the national narrative with my quarterback. And I want to point this out first. I've said this on 609 billions of times. I was a Carson Wentz guy. That was my guy, and I will stand by it. If he never gets hurt, we got robbed of one of the best quarterbacks we could have had in the history of our franchise. However, what happened. Injuries and all the other stuff that went down with him, it happened. You can't turn back time with this. I was not a Jalen Hurts guy in the beginning. I thought there was a lot of flaws in his game, but as time went on and I watched him, there was a game in 2020, which was his rookie year. Wentz officially got benched and he went out to Arizona. The Eagles were not a good team in 2020. They won 4 games. And I watched this guy go toe for toe, throw for 300 yards, rush for almost 100, and led the game-time drive and almost got them in a position to win the game. And when I watched that game, I said, this guy, if he can improve, can play. This guy can translate in the NFL because no matter what his numbers look like, you will have a chance to win football games. And ever since 2021, this team has been a play. This is why I don't understand what the thing about Hurts or Sirianni. That's why last night I led toward Jalen. But then towards the end of the conversation, if you notice, I kind of started to just put them together because these two have given this city the best stretch of football since the Andy and Donovan McNabb days. And if we're being completely real, they've been better because unlike Andy and McNabb, they won the damn thing. No disrespect to Andy and McNabb. They were great here. I don't want to disrespect them. But in Philadelphia, you're based on what have you done for me lately? And no offense, they didn't win. They had one chance to win, and they lost it, and they never got back. These two lost it against KC the first time, and you're like, damn, the history doesn't usually go well with this. They got back 2 years later against the same Chiefs team. Not only did they get revenge on that team, they beat the freaking doors off them. Like the Chiefs didn't cross midfield till the third quarter. They dominated them the entire game. That is what I don't understand, why there is such a narrative with these two. But I'll tell you why there's a national narrative, because people like to gloss over the McVays and Staffords of the world, the Joe Burrows of the world, the Andy and Mahomes, the Matt LaFleurs. And guess what? Because their offense looks cool, it looks fun, and all these other quarterbacks are throwing for 400 yards a game. But then you got this team in Philadelphia that, in my opinion, this is what I call it. I call it 1980s football. We just run the football for 150 yards a game. We throw for barely $125. But guess what? At the end of the day, we're walking out with wins. Last time I checked, I'm not here to put up nice numbers. I'm here to win football games. And as long as these guys are winning football games, I literally said, I don't care if we only pass for 5 yards in a game and we win 2-0 on a safety. I don't care. I want to win. That's all I care about at the end of the day. And as long as these two win football games, why is there a problem? Because how it looks. Okay.
It looks fine to me if you win. I mean, that's I could tell you that right now. We have in our podcast group at Driving to the Top Productions, our Ohio State guy. He's just always killing, just use for example, Ryan Day. Ryan Day has won a national championship. He's lost to Michigan several times. Ryan Day's lost 12 games in 8 years. like, I don't know what more you want. And it's kind of it's the same thing with Sirianni. Like, how much winning do you need to do and hurt before you get some respect? We're still hearing kind of the same narrative with those guys. I mean, don't get me wrong. They have Eagles have great defense. I think they have great defensive system. You mentioned Vic Fangio, brilliant. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know why these guys don't get the respect that they should, considering how much winning they've done, how successful they've been.
Because it's Philadelphia, and but the national narrative doesn't like Philadelphia. That's why I say if LeBron James comes to Philadelphia, ESPN may have to shut down for a month because they may not be able to. Colin Cowherd won't have a show because he'll be disappointed because none of them like to talk about Philadelphia because we're not, it's you threw snowballs at Santa Claus in 1960. Like, it's all that crap. That's why Philadelphia gets the disrespect that we get. Also, just to bring up what you said about Ohio State, as a 30-year-old depressed Penn State fan, I don't want to hear about Ohio State fans complaining about Ryan Day, okay? I take Ryan Day all day and twice on Sunday, even though I am excited to see our new era with Matt Campbell, so I don't want to sound too upset. But after watching James Franklin for the past decade, I don't want to hear Ohio State fans complain about Ryan freaking Day, okay?
Or be a Maryland Terps fan and long for the guy that you guys got rid of. All I heard all last season is why don't we have James Franklin back, who was here before? As a Terps coach, but yeah, Ryan. I mean, it's the Ryan Day thing. That's just crazy. I don't see how you can win all the time and still be angry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, first off, let me come up and say this: I am not one of the people that hated James Franklin. I went to bat for James Franklin a lot. It's just when even in college, especially now in the era we are with NIL and the transfer portal, where basically college football is becoming a minor league NFL league because so you saw Indiana this past year. You're going to have to start winning a national championship within the transfer portal. Recruiting is going to get killed more by this because, no disrespect, just this past week, Penn State lost Khalil Taylor. He had committed to Penn State when Franklin was here. Then he decommitted when he was fired. But he kept the door open for Penn State to come back after they got their coaching search higher and situated. So Taylor took a visit here, and it seemed like after that weekend, they had him and Deshaun Hall, who is also a 4-star recruit for the 2027 class. They both had really good visits to Penn State, and they look to be the favorites to land both of them. Well, fast forward now, Deshaun Hall committed to Auburn and Khalil Taylor committed to Nebraska. And they just lost Aiden Gibson, who decommitted from Penn State this past week. Yes, and he went to Rutgers. No disrespect for any of those schools. When in the world is somebody picking Rutgers over Penn State?
And there are schools like Penn State, Clemson, that are just sticking with the old ways. There are some schools that are having some success with it. But Indiana's blowing it out of the water. Who wants to go to Indiana, for God's sake? Even before that, he was doing well at James Madison, which is like the closest school to here. Like, who wants to go to James Madison? I'll tell you why, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what it is. So again, tradition and all that is something different here. Your Phillies are doing well this year. A bit of a slow start as well. I told you, we were talking about it off camera. Some of my favorite players, not Orioles, Bryce Harper, have always been. I don't see how you don't love baseball and you don't love Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber. This has been the most stable franchise in MLB. That's over the last 8-9 years. A good Phillies team. I think we've had it, even though they did go ahead and get rid of their manager earlier this year. What do you think the outcome is for the Phillies? A really good team so far.
See, here's the problem with the Phillies, and I will say this: that I'll start this off with a little small personal story. Baseball always was my first sport that I loved. When my grandfather was alive, I tell this story to everybody. When I was born on May 9th, 1996. I was brought home on Mother's Day. Did my mother come home and spend time with her newborn? No. You know where I was? I was at my grandfather's left arm watching a Phillies game. My mother told me that story from the day I was old enough to understand it. I've been watching baseball since I came out the womb, basically. And because of the love for the game that my grandfather had and that I had, we always were closer because of it. And the Phillies have always held a special place in my heart strictly because of my grandfather. He bought me season tickets when I was a teenager, right after they won the '08 World Series. We went to games. We watched every game we could on the television together. And this team over the past 4 to 5 years has been one of the mainstays in the National League. The problem is with this team is the last 4 Octobers, the offense goes cold every time. It happened in the World Series in 22. They had that big game 3 where they tied the record for home runs in a game. They got no hit in game 4, and then they couldn't score runs for the rest of the series. 2023, NLCS against Arizona. They're up 3-2, 2 games in Philly to win this thing. Offense goes cold. Play the Mets. Offense went cold outside of Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos that year. Last year, nobody hit consistently. Some guys had a good game here. Schwarber had the big game. I think it was a game 3 in LA where I think he got 2 in that game off of Yamamoto. So, but again, they didn't consistently hit. And then, of course, the Kirkring thing, throwing the ball to home plate, all that. Yeah, that's something I don't want to have to remind myself of. But they are a good team. They have their flaws. Like Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper, if they weren't on this team, this is probably one of the worst teams in baseball because they have been carrying this lineup all season. Christopher Sanchez, Zach Wheeler, they have been one of the best 1-2 punches you could find in starting pitchers in baseball this year. Add Jesus Luzardo, what he's done over the past month. I mean, he was just named an all-star for a reason, and he's had a really good stretch down the stretch of the first half of the season. But the other problem is in baseball to win, you have to have at least 4 quality starters. We have 3. And our bullpen is not strong enough to be throwing bullpen games in the playoffs. I don't think any team should go into the postseason throwing bullpen games because that's how you stretch out everybody and get everyone exhausted by the NLCS if you make it that far. But they have a back end of the rotation problem. Andrew Painter, the young kid, already back at AAA, he's still getting wrecked. He gave up 7 runs at AAA last night.
It seems like too they have this every year. Like the back end of the the bullpen is kind of like their bug up. Like even in these good years offensively and all that, the Phillies kind of don't have it at the. That's kind of the weakness. It seems like over and over for them, even when they brought in guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, this year, the last year and a half's been better since they got Johan Duran from the Twins. I mean, God, Lord, you want to talk about one of the best closers in baseball. I mean, guy's got 23 saves in the first half. His ERA is under 2. His ERA in save situations is under 1. He's been tremendous. Orion Kirkring, I know I brought up the whole incident with the Dodgers last year, but this year, he's probably been one of their most dependable relievers. The problem is that's also an issue because Brad Keller, who they signed from the Cubs, he's been very up and down. I mean, he's been on the IL for the past few weeks with a forearm injury, so hopefully they'll get him back. Hopefully, mechanically, he's fixed whatever he's gone through early in the season and is able to bounce back in the second half. The decline from Jose Alvarado has killed this team because going into the season, they traded Matt Strahm to the Royals for Jonathan Bolden. Now, Jonathan Bolden's actually been very good. His ERA is around 3.2, throws 98 effortlessly. Came in the other night against the Reds. Kirkering literally walked the bases loaded. So he comes in with 2 outs, and Eugenio Suarez is at the plate. Dude just hit 50 homers last year. Jonathan Bolden took 98 right down the chute, said, here, hit this. He blew it by him. So Matt Strahm's already gone in Kansas City. That's one of your best lefties in your pen over the past 3 years. Tanner Banks, who had a really good year last year, has been getting rocked. ERA's over 6. So Jose Alvarado going into the season, you needed him to be the Jose Alvarado you thought he was. He is no longer that guy. He is supposed to be, him and Keller are supposed to be your combination in the 8th inning, depending on matchups.
Right.
I don't trust Alvarado coming in the 6th inning. I don't know who the bullpen has been an issue outside of Johan Duran and Orion Kirkering some days. Some days Kirkering still has his moments, but if you would have told me going into the All-Star break that Jonathan Bolden would be my second best reliever, that's probably a big issue.
The Phillies seem like a team to me also too. It's the national media will because everything is there. They have they have your star, they have their this, but they seem to be missing that little extra intangible, the little things, like you said, going cold in the playoffs as well. Can't be on the margins, not as good. You know what I'm saying? Like the Rays, like you said, Rays, for example. Rays are very good on the margins. Cubs are very good on the margins. Well, like they don't seem to be great there. Like just a little feeling, just a little thing. Like despite all their firepower, is that accurate when you look at the Phillies?
Oh God, where do I start? They're not good on the margins because let's be real. They're paying two guys, Nick Castellanos and Taijuan Walker, this year to not play for them. Taijuan Walker was supposed to be that back end starter for the past 4 to 5 years to help solidify the rotation. That was a miss. The only reason I don't give Dave Dombrowski full credit for the Johan Duran trade is because he attempted to fix the back end of the bullpen with Jordan Romano, whose ERA was over 8 last season with the Phillies, then signed with the Angels, and then his ERA was back over 8, and he got released. That was his attempt to fix the bullpen first, not trade for Johan Duran. That's not a trade I give him the most credit for. That's a common sense move because if you don't trade for him, we ain't got nothing back there. But this team has been looking for a right-handed hitter to protect this lineup for 4 years now. They tried Whit Merrifield. That failed. They tried Austin Hayes. That failed. They tried Harrison Bader. He actually played well. They chose not to re-sign him. They signed Max Kepler last year, who Max Kepler was taking PEDs last year and was still bad. And then they signed Adolis Garcia this year, who I feel bad for Adolis because he was starting to play better when they went out to Toronto. And then, of course, he tears the lat muscle in his shoulder, throwing a ball from the outfield, and it ultimately ends his season, which sucks.
He's had a lot of injuries in recent years. That's why he's not higher. Well, yeah, he's had a lot of injuries.
Yes, he was dealing with injuries in Texas, and I was hoping about 3 weeks before that injury, he started hitting the ball better. He was hitting some balls out of the park and doing nice old bat flips. I'm like, okay, maybe. I'm not saying I'm getting 2023 Texas Rangers ALCS MVP, but if I can get something a little under that, I'm cool. Then I can go into the playoffs with a fearful lineup. But the problem is this year now, the starting rotation I'm not worried about. Even with Aaron Nola as your 4, I'm not too worried. I think the bullpen will hopefully figure it out. Outside of Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper, and this year Brandon Marsh, who has had a sensational first half of the season, that lineup is concerning. Trey Turner is not playing the same that he was last year. He was the batting champion in the National League last year. He's not hitting. His fielding is dreadful. That's another big issue with the Phillies. Their fielding is terrible. They're not a great fielding team. But outside of that, in the playoffs, what you need. Guys got to get on base. Guys got to drive in runs with 2 outs. Who's doing the damage if your name isn't Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, or Brandon Marsh? Who's doing it? Where's the production going to come from?
And the other truth is the biggest problem that y'all have in the National League is the Dodgers are there. Like the Dodgers are just. I mean, I don't know what anybody does against the Dodgers. I mean, they even this year have guys that aren't even playing particularly well, and it hasn't mattered. I mean, Betts has struggled, Tucker has struggled, even Ohtani like slower. Even
and he's doing nothing.
Ohtani's kind of back on track now, but like even slow start for him doesn't matter. Pages, Muncy, etc. You know, I don't know. It's just I think that's a big problem as well. One last question about that, kind of leading into that, the Dodgers lockout coming in baseball 2027. I'm pretty convinced we're going to have a lockout here. I think a lot of fans, I think, unfairly mad at the Dodgers, in my opinion, for that. What do you think happens with the lockout?
Well, me and Dustin Reese, who is my co-host on Hitting Home, which is our baseball show every Wednesday night, and we've been talking. We give people weekly updates when MLB or the MLBPA proposes something new, and just from the way negotiations have gone, there is a very big. Because here's the thing: I know people keep. Here's the thing: everyone's target is the beginning of December because that's when the CBA expires. there is still we're trying to keep people with a little tiny bit of optimism, but still be realistic. That is not the target date you need to worry about. The target date you need to worry about is the beginning of March, because if you guys remember, there was a minor lockout in 2022. The first 2 to 3 weeks of spring training were taken away because there was a small lockout. And that's when they came up with the tentative agreement that got us to this point. If you can get to an agreement before like March the 15th, you can just do about 2.5 weeks of spring training and then, all right, let's have a season, and you don't lose any regular season baseball. So December, the first week of December is not the concern. It's if we're in the March and there's no ground being made up, because once you get past March 15th, then you're losing games. However, Dustin and I have talked about this on Hitting Home every week since we started. And we started hitting home in February. As soon as the football season ended, we started hitting home. And we have been talking about this week in and week out. We do not currently see a scenario where we do not miss games. There is going to be missed baseball next year. Unfortunately, I would love to be optimistic and say, hey, maybe it's only going to be a few weeks. There is a high chance that we don't have a season next year because they are just that far apart. The owners want to cap the sport. And again, we could say this too. If I was a baseball player and I was being told, oh yeah, we're going to put a cap on the money you guys make, I would tell them to go kick a bag of bricks without shoes on. Because why would I want you to cap the money I can make? I mean, I could have a chance now. Ohtani signed for $70 million a year. Now we're going to get capped? No.
So, I've actually never kicked a bag of bricks without shoes on. I'm sure that would hurt. So I've never actually done that. The other concern I think with what we're going to see, I remember in 2022. I'm glad you mentioned that there was a big signing fury right before this. Because they knew a lockout was possibly coming. So there was a lot of guys signing early with this. I think this time around, you won't see that because you're worried about the cap. I think a lot of the high-end teams are very concerned, hey, we may have to get rid of Tucker or Schwarber or whatever because the cap says we can't keep him if there is a cap. So I do think this is going to be war here longer as well. I think there's a very good chance we don't have a season this season.
Not only that, look at the kids that are like Connor Griffin in Pittsburgh, who just got called up, Kevin McGonigal, the kid in St. Louis getting these 8-9 year extensions now. They're locking these kids up, so they're saying, hey, look, if there's a lockout and we have a new cap or something, let's get this contract in so they'll have to grandfather those contracts into this. So get your money so you don't get screwed in the future. Because
San Webber in Baltimore, same thing, 8-year deal. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That exactly my point. Teams are locking up their young talent now, so this whole thing doesn't become a complete SHIT show. I'm not going to say it live. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to be but that's what it's turning into. This is turning into a freaking crapshoot. And there have been some proposals that have made sense. Of course, they threw the cap out there to the players. The players said no. And then the couple of things that the Major League Baseball has proposed over the past few weeks that we talked about a few weeks ago, contract lengths. That if you are a free agent going from one team to another, you can only sign a max contract up to 5 years. And if you are going to be a free agent, but you choose to stay with your team, you can take a 6-year deal. I, for one, actually do not hate the idea of that because I'm sorry. No disrespect to these guys. The Phillies have Trey Turner signed until he's 38 years old. Is Trey Turner going to be playing shortstop until he's 38 years old? No.
I'm actually in the minority opinion on that. I'm fine with long-term deals for players. I think it's fine. If teams want to do it, then I think that's fine. The market shifts, and I think it is. It's better for players like Trey Turner. I mean, you look at you talk about Trey Turner being worth it. I mean, Bogarts in San Diego. I mean, my goodness, he's already declining. I think they've got him for another 5 or 6 more years, something like that. That's again, in most cases, like Bryce Harper's one, that worked out, obviously. 13, what was that, a 13-year deal he had or something like that? Or
yep.
Some along those lines, like in some cases it will, like Otani, no brainer. But if players can get it, I'm more for it. There's the money's there in baseball. But cry me a river with these owners saying that they don't need. I mean, just cry me a river. David Rubenstein, the owner of the Orioles, is worth almost $1 trillion. What do you mean you can't?
And that's the one thing that we have always said on Hitting Home about this is because I know what the Dodgers have done. I understand that not every team can take a Shohei Ohtani and defer $68 million a year to him. I understand that. But for teams like the Pirates, who are basically 5 years down the road, are admitting, oh, yeah, we won't be able to pay Paul Skeens because he's not going to want to stay here because we can't field a team. You're telling me, here's what this MLB negotiation period has been for me. You either feel bad for billionaire owners or you feel bad for millionaire players. I don't feel bad for either of you guys. To me, you're all greedy. I don't want to hear it. You guys make more in one day than I make in my whole life, than I'll make in my whole week. So I don't want to hear these guys talk about money. But it's like the Tampa Bay Rays. They field a good team almost every couple of years. Maybe they have like one or two like down years. They're still a good team. And Junior Caminero, what are they going to pay him? No, we can't afford him. You can't afford him. The guy's one of the best third basemen in baseball. You can't afford him? You're a baseball team. What, you have no money? And that's because owners like to pocket the revenue share. Instead of spending it to make the team better, they'll just pocket the revenue and just call it a day. And that's why. But then they'll be the ones, oh, no one's coming out to my ballpark. Well, yeah, no, duh. Why is that?
The tickets are so expensive. That's a whole nother thing. Like, again, that's a whole nother subject. We could go down the road here, but I do want to talk to the people out here about you, Sam, and what you've done. 609 Sports Talk. You are. I could see it. I could tell the difference. I'm not going to say on the other side of this, but I could tell the ones that are. You mentioned how like FAN got on your nerves, IIP got on your nerves, but I could tell content creators who are. I don't want to use the word propped up, but I can tell the ones that are really grinding. And I've seen that in you right away. You're all sweat elbows, sweat equity doing what you're doing as well. Why did you start this venture here? And you said it's been 2022. Is that right? Did I hear that right? 2020? You started it.
So
go ahead.
Well, here, I'll give you the little backstory to it. This 609 originally started right in the middle of COVID in 2020. Now, unfortunately, and I'll bring up some personal things with this. I knew at a very young age that me becoming an athlete was not going to happen. I can tell you that right now. Me becoming an athlete was never going to happen. So
me too, by the way.
At the end of the day, no matter who I talk to, my teachers, my mom, my cousins, my friends, they said, do you do anything outside of your spare time than look up and learn about sports? And I said, no, it's been my life since I've been growing up. Like I said, my love for the Phillies and baseball. Then I started getting into the NFL. Then I got into the NBA. Then my friend took me to my first Flyers game the year after they went to the Stanley Cup and lost to Chicago. Thanks, Patrick Kane. I still haven't forgotten that, but it's been my life. And people say you know so much. And at the end of the day, what inspired me was another company that is right down in South Jersey in the Philadelphia market. And I watched them grow continuously and how awesome it was to, interact with people and talk with people. And I was like, my mom said to me once, she's like, why don't you do that? She's like, look, the world's basically shut down at this point. There's nothing for you to do. Why don't you put your mind and your effort into a project like that? I said, I'll give it some thought. Well, flash forward 2 weeks later, and then 609 was born. And started out doing shows in my dining room. That's how this started. And it was me. And if anybody checks out our show Mondays Unbiased, that's my best friend Tyler Adams. He is the one that started 609 with me. He is actually the one that came up with the name, because that's our area code here in Trenton is 609. That's where the name came from. He came up with that. So for one, I'm a humble person. I wouldn't have this if it weren't for him. So he is the one that created the name for us. But we started in 2020 and it was fun. We were on every Saturday. We were having a good time doing it. unfortunately, about 2 to 3 months into my journey doing this, my mother passed away. And that took a very big toll on my life because in my life, I grew up with my mother and my grandparents. I have no issue with putting this out there to the people. I like to be honest with people. I grew up with in a single parent home. My mother and my two grandparents raised me. And so my grandfather, who I talked about earlier, was like my father figure. I lost him when I was 18, my senior year of high school. And then I lost my mom in 2020. And after a while,
Was it COVID?
took,
Not to interrupt
no,
too much. I'm sorry.
no, yeah, I didn't. It was not. My mom was right in the middle of COVID, but she luckily it was not because of COVID. She fell, she damaged her spine, and she had surgery. But my mom had a lot of other underlying health issues, and her body couldn't take it, and it just the complications from it just were too much for her. So I lost my mom in August of 2020. And then I still did 609 for a couple of months, but the toll that took on me, just I couldn't, I had no strength left to do 609 for a while. So I did shut it down from about October of 2020 till about March of 2022. I was done. I spent a year and a half just trying to fix myself, get myself in a better state of mind after all that happened. And then, we always kept our social media stuff, our Facebook page and all that was still there. And Tyler's like, we still want to do something with this? I said, absolutely. And then this is a very long story, so I apologize for the length of it.
No, this is interesting. No, go ahead.
We came back in March of 2022. And then we were thinking about, we got a whole new. I took the whole spare room in my home because this is my personal room where my setup is. But I have a spare room in my home, which was being used for nothing. So we turned that entire thing into a studio. And man, do I regret losing that studio. But when we realized that doing it remotely was so much easier on us, that's why we did this. So we came back, stuck to our Saturday night show, and then we actually brought on more people. And we added a couple shows. We added a wrestling show for a little bit. We added a Monday night show. So we were on Mondays, Saturdays, and I think the wrestling show was Thursdays. So, but as any business way, sometimes you don't bring the right people in. Let's just say that. Sometimes you don't bring the right people. Not that and I'm not saying I did not bring anybody who tried to destroy what we were creating. It was more of not taking it as serious as we were.
Right.
So there were some very hard burnout days, and I was still, when I thought I was more recovered from what happened with my mother, clearly I still was going through I still go through stuff with that now, but it's easier now than it was 6 years ago or even 4 years ago. So
you lose a parent, it never changes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No, you're right. When you lose a parent, it's a wound that it never heals. It just gets easier to deal with. Yeah. It's never going to heal. Mm-hmm. So, and of course, my mom, another sports fanatic. I mean, God, she cried and hugged me to death when the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017. It was one of the greatest things we got to share together. So unfortunately, in 2023, I suffered complete content burnout. And there was we had a wrestling show, and I just sat there and I was like, yeah, I'm not my two best friends looked at me because the wrestling show was Tyler, myself, and one of our other best friends, and they both looked at me, and I said, I don't know if I I am actually more happy when this was over than doing the show. So, unfortunately, 609 went away again because of me burning it myself completely out. I was working so hard, so focused, and I didn't know how to take time for myself and kind of get myself into a state of mind where I was good and I could still do this. So
I hear you.
Once again,
been there.
September 23, I shut it down. We had to shut it down again. Then we started realizing about doing things remotely. And then, funny enough, after a while, after a few months, I felt the niche to get back into talking about sports again. And once again, Tyler, my co-host and best friend, said to me, I'm still with you. Whatever you want to do. We actually started something. This is actually a Birds of the Gridiron story. Birds of the Gridiron actually was its own separate podcast. We started that up. We went away from 609 because I needed time. It's almost like it's like wrestling with CM Punk. He didn't go back to WWE first. He went to AEW. He needed time to heal from the wounds, right? So Birds of the Gridiron had its own Facebook page. We had a YouTube channel for it, and we just strictly came back on Monday nights at 5:30, which was our original start time, talking about the Eagles, and that was it. It was because it wasn't overwhelming for me. I was able to just talk about the Eagles. The shows were like an hour long. We were doing them remotely. We weren't doing studio shows anymore, which, as cool as my studio was, and I will say it was one of the best in my opinion, having to rely on, because the one thing, all my co-hosts were, we were all within 5 minutes of each other. And as cool as that is, still having to worry about everyone showing up and this and that, it gets to be kind of much. So, well, me and Tyler just came back doing the Birds thing, and it was fun. And then as the off season went on for the Eagles, now this was the year before, this was the off season of 2024, right before they won the Super Bowl, the most recent time. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking of Birds topics, and I'm putting stuff together for each show, but I'm sitting here like, damn, I really don't have much for this week. And like, so we would consider like once every week, like maybe we'll take this week off because it's like I don't have much. And I'm like, damn, a one team exclusive show. Not only is that kind of difficult, I'm also not too far away from a lot of other Eagles content creators. I'm in it's a watered down market for where I'm at because I'm not far from Philadelphia. So I'm like, you know what? In New Jersey, like you said, we are basically the suburbs for New York and Philadelphia, yes. But people need to understand New Jersey, we don't have a lot in terms of sports. We have the Devils in the NHL. That's it. They took the Nets, they took them from us and put them in Brooklyn. We don't got baseball. I mean, yeah, we in New Jersey, we don't have baseball. We have Philadelphia, New York, yes, but same thing for the NFL. We have New York, Philadelphia. So, but from my time growing up in the state of New Jersey, what I've realized is we got a lot of other fans in this state. I got Cowboy fans that I know. I got guys that are Eagles fans that they're also they're Detroit. My one friend's a freaking Eagles fan. He's a Detroit Tigers fan and a Red Wings fan, and then he's a Sixers fan. Make that make sense, but like there's a lot, and I know people that are Chiefs fans here. I know people that are Bulls fans. I know the market in New Jersey is kind of weird because we don't have our own sports team. So you kind of have to branch out to pick what you want, Philly, New York, or something different. And so fast forward to the summer of 2024, and I approach and I'm like, damn, the national sports talk that I love to do, it was starting to come back to me. And I'm like, damn, I do miss this. So, in August, we had been off from Birds of the Gridiron for the whole month of July because we had just some personal things, some vacations planned. We couldn't be out there consistently. So we took about the month of July off. So, through that month of July, though, we secretly planned the relaunch of 609 Sports Talk. And if anybody, I mean, you commented, I think the one show, DA After Dark, that's our show on Tuesday. That is actually George, who is the host of that show. That is my best friend who lives in Ohio, who I met because 609 once came up in his Facebook mentions as something he may have liked. We've been best friends ever since. That was back in 2023. We've been best friends ever since.
Right.
And like that show, George lives in Ohio. Our other co-host on that, Zolt, who comes in later on, lives in Michigan, and I'm in New Jersey. So we got a lot of coverage out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, the national sports coverage was something I love to do. I love talking about just the NFL. I could talk more than just the Eagles. I love just talking about football in general. Same thing with basketball. I love talking about basketball in general. Baseball, same thing. I could talk baseball with anybody. And of course, Birds of the Gridiron we brought over to be like our Friday night show because we still do have a heavy dose of Eagle fans in our fan base. So we decided to bring that over as our off-season NFL show. Now, during the NFL season, we actually have a different show on Fridays. When football season kicks back off, Birds of the Gridiron will be going away. We have a show on Friday called the Friday Night Gridiron Picks, which is going to be, we will give our predictions for each NFL game that weekend. So that's like an hour-long show. We give all our picks. And if college has some really big matchups, like big ranked opponents going head-to-head, we'll preview those as well. So that's
Texas, Ohio State, or Oklahoma, Michigan early in the season this year, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'll pick Michigan every time because I hate Ohio State, but that's just my personal vendetta. But no, so we relaunched 609 in the summer of 2024, and like I said, I apologize for this story. It's a very long, detailed story.
No, go ahead. No, we're good.
But yeah, so since August of 24, we went from being once a week to now we have 4 shows a week. We have Unbiased on Mondays, DA After Dark, which again is my best friend George's show. He asked me, could he bring it to 609? And I said, absolutely. He does all of our graphic art stuff, our intros, our outros, our backgrounds, everything is all him. He does it on his own, and he's super talented at it. I cannot say that enough, that he is super talented at it. And then we have Hitting Home on Wednesday nights, and then we have Birds of the Gridiron / the Friday Night Gridiron Picks on Friday nights. So we've gone from once a week to 4 shows a week now. And honestly, for a guy who, and I'm not afraid to admit that suffers from depression, which I do, and I will never, ever be afraid to say that. And I will tell people out there, if you are dealing with that stuff, do not be afraid to ask for help. Do not be afraid to talk about it, because guess what? That is what makes it better. Hiding it and trying to, as I'll say, tough guy it, that is what takes you down. Do not let that happen to you. It's a tough thing to deal with, but this right here, this is my escape from it. Because when my camera's on and I'm on this microphone, it's the best couple hours out of my day. And let me just to wrap this up, the goal that I had with 609 since coming back in 2024. In 2020, it was just a fun little thing to do. You know, the world was shut down. We had nothing to do. We had no sports going on. We needed something to do. I think our second ever show, this is how dead the world was in 2020. We did the second episode. You know what we did? We spent it recapping The Last Dance documentary.
The Last Dance. Yeah, I knew that was coming.
I love that thing. And so, like...
because there was nothing else happening. Everybody was treating The Last Dance like it was, like actual sports going on. Yeah.
So there was really nothing to do. So... It was one of the best episodes that we did. It was so fun. But
and Last Dance and NFL free agency, I think was still going on. I think.
Yeah, and the NFL draft still happened that year too. The NFL is the only sport that didn't shut down.
Yeah, because they didn't start back up until September. They really were going as well.
Actually, that was our first episode. We did an Eagles draft recap, and that was the year they drafted Jalen Hurts. When I was still a Carson Wentz guy, that show got heated.
Oh,
that show got heated.
This was awesome, man. Your story, I think, is why your channel is growing as well. It's very interesting as well, and the energy just flies off the screen. I don't have that. I wish I did. The energy of you just flies off the screen as a sports fan as well. It's typical New York stuff, and I think your story is pretty cool here as well. Hang off camera for a second too, if you don't mind. Once we get down here, once I wrap it up. So, just one for 1 second. So I just want to thank all of you. Thanks, Sam, for joining us here as well, and tell the people where they can find you out here. If you didn't get it already.
Of course, well, 609 Sports Talk is on Facebook, and of course, we are also on YouTube. That is actually called 609 Sports Talk Radio, because We're kind of going for more of that, like, we're not like on radio. Maybe one day our goal is to be there. We're still trying to build this up every single day. But right now, if you type in at 609 Sports, that's where you'll find it on YouTube. It'll come up 609 Sports Talk Radio. And on Facebook, it's just 609 Sports Talk. So that's where you can find us. And just real quickly, before we end this, I want to say that our goal is to give sports fans their voice back. Because I'm sorry, national headliners, they are rage bait, clickbait. What can I say today so people will listen to me? It ain't about accuracy, and that's what I can't stand. Am I the flashiest person when it comes to content? No, but the one thing you can always we always pride ourselves on: accuracy. That's what we're trying to do here.
All right, thank you, sir, and thank you very much for calling for joining us here with the Ravori Sports Podcast. Like and subscribe. You guys have a great day.